Um, Hello everyone. This is, Willow Rex123. This is my first video that I talk about my thoughts and opinions on monsters. This video will be about the first generation of monsters. Um, I have fought most of the monsters in this generation. The ones that I haven't fought, I'll still talk about, but most of my opinions will be largely based upon like things that I've seen. Um, these are the little tiers that I have. So, dislike are for monsters that I don't really like. It could be a mix of their fight or their design, um, mix of both per se. Bit boring is monsters that don't inherently do anything wrong. They're just don't really hit the spot. Nice is for monsters that are, nice. They're pretty basic. They don't do anything inherently wrong. Don't have, but like, not crazy about them, nor am I negative on them. Very good monsters that are very good. They do a lot of good things right, but they're not up there for monsters that I love. And absolutely love is, well, for monsters that I think are amazing. For whatever reasons that I think so. This list will also be taking consideration just comparing them to each other. I plan on doing a larger tier list for the series as a whole later on, where I will compare them. However, this is only for first gen, so certain monsters that might be in one spot might be either lower or higher, depending on a comparison between other games. And I'll be taking into consideration their fights across all the games. Gives a little more talking points. So let us start with Velocidrome. Um, he's he's old. He's I wouldn't say he's like deserving of a nice, because he is a bit boring. Like his design, I actually kind of like, because the colors, they just immediately catch your eyes with this vivid blue and that striking red crest. Um, and his design, it's a dinosaur, obviously a raptor, but they've touched it up and made it more monster-fied. With the long, ferocious beak and the uneasy-looking eyes, as well as the long front claws. Um, I do wish it was a little different from the Velociprey. They are almost identical. I think the Velocidrome is bigger with a bigger crest, and that's about it. And his fight, Gen 1 bird wyverns really suffer from the fact that they never really got the changes they needed. Um, Velocidrome, yeah, he's basically the same in every game he's in. I'm pretty sure 4th gen gave him a pin, which made him a little more interesting, because you gotta worry about that. But if you just bring dung pods, then it doesn't change much, and he kind of goes down. His gear's okay, nothing stand outish. I mean, ecologically, he doesn't do anything too crazy. Um, I kind of think it would be pretty interesting if they brought him back for the expansion to Wilds, as maybe like the intro to G rank or Master rank, or whatever name they decide to go with, because although he doesn't have a very good record when it comes to his fight, with what Wilds did to these two, I definitely think they could do something possibly. And we don't really have a pack bird wyvern kind of framework um, like the drones, but that could be a little interesting. So, yeah, right now he's a bit boring, but if he does come back in Wilds, and if I'm right on that, then maybe he'll go up. So, yeah. Next is Velocidrome. I do like Velocidrome more. than Velociprey. I like how he's a lot more intimidating. He still looks similar enough where you know they're related. And he has the snake fangs and the more interesting crest. The reason he's not going in nice is just because he's not that much different. He's basically a Velocidrome with, I think, a bit more health and paralysis, which I'll be more interesting, though not like too crazy. You know, he could come back as well, actually, because they could have Velocidrome in the Scarlet Forest when we're plains, and then the volcano, not volcano, the basin, oil basin. So that could work. And Gendrome, he's cool. Best design out of the three. But not much to say. He's, like I said, just Velocidrome, paralysis, fight him later on. I like his weapons, though. Next is Iodrome. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Iodrome. For what he is, he's very hit or miss, because he has a unique design. And while I'm not a big fan of the design, I can appreciate what they were going with. Making him, like, this more, like, amphibian kind of esque design with, like, the smooth, almost slimy looking skin depending on the game. And this very strange face as well. In his concept art, he was gonna have more amphibianness with, like, the frog throat sac kind of, like, really expanding and becoming noticeable compared to the kind of pelican sac he gets when he does it in the game. So I like the design in that it's like they're going for something unique. It just doesn't hit the spot. And his fight, I'm not a big fan of poison monsters, and although that could just come down from a skill issue, he has the poison, which I'm not a big fan of, but then he also just has so much health. Like, I do think he's the largest of the three, but does that really warrant, like, a 4 times, well, it's more like a 10 times health increase, because you really just beat him, like, for 10 minutes, and he just won't die, even though he's built like a toothpick. And he's also I'm not a big fan of him being in volcano regions, because of the fact that, like, he fits well in swamps because amphibian, but, like, you'd think his skin would dry out, but that could also just be the fact that is his skin actually slimy, or is that just something people kind of assume because of it? He could have, like, almost like python skin where it looks like it, but it's actually, just smooth. And so maybe that's why he can do in the volcano. But same as these two, if they brought them back in Wild, I think they could do something pretty interesting. And we don't really have a swamp, but we have the oil well basin. And to be fair, it is the least, not maybe least per se, but it is one of the least over the top hot regions. So he could maybe come back. I wouldn't mind that, to be honest, despite me disliking him. I think him coming back would be really cool. And then next, Yan-Kut-Kut. So a lot of people like Yan-Kut-Kut, and I could see why. He's a very cool bird wyvern. He's pretty much the big first, like, actual fight in the old game, where you fight Velocidrome first, but he's a pushover pretty much. Like, he's just a big Velocidrome and he dies. But Yan-Kut-Kut, he flies around, teaches you about, like, the paintballs and stuff, and he's, like, the first real hunt. And in first gen, he's kind of a progenitor to Rathalos. Like, he gets you ready for Rathalos, and that he's a flying guy with fire, but much easier, and a lot less intimidating, being this very goofy bird. Though I really like its design. It's very unique, and, like, it's what I like about the Monster Hunter franchise, is you get these very cool designs that really just aren't what you would expect from other fantasy series. And I appreciate that about Yankutku. And his fight, although basic, it's pretty good. They, I like what they did with him in Wilds, and it's the same reason I want Velocidrome to come back for Wilds. Is Yankutku appears as the kind of tutorial monster for high rank, and he actually can catch you off guard when you do that because, well, for people who haven't fought him, they wouldn't expect much. But for people who have fought him before, they wouldn't think much of it. They'd be like, oh, snap, Yankutku. That's pretty cool. Let's go capture him. But then he kind of pulls out these moves that you don't expect, like the new one where he kind of just charges at you like a mad lad and digs into the ground. That move has such good tracking. It's very spooky. And the damage, I did not expect the amount of damage he was going to do in that game. And funnily enough, like, even at the end, like, end game of high rank in Wilds currently, I still find Yankutku more difficult fight than, like, some other monsters. It's really funny. So I do like him. Actually, I might actually put him in very good. Yeah, like, and ecologically, he's cool. He's this very successful animal who just eats bugs, maybe other things, maybe some plant matter and other animals. But he's very cool. This social bird wyvern who has these population booms that, you know, gets nullified by hunters and probably larger monsters hunting him. Because he's always seemed like a monster who gets eaten by others. I mean, in 4U, Yangaruga literally tries to bully the poor thing. But yeah, so he's a very good monster. I like it, and I like his gear and his weapons. Some of his weapons are really silly. And then now Blue Yankutku. Blue Yan is going one tier down only because, although I like the colors more, I like this nice, very bright, cool blue and the kind of slight green on his crest compared to just like the nice pinks and stuff. It's a nice difference, but Blue Yankutku doesn't have his new touch up that his original pal did, so he's limited by that, and he just doesn't really do anything. Like, he doesn't improve on Yankutku. He has nicer colors, but, like, you can't say he's automatically better just because they gave him a paint job. Like, that'd be quite ridiculous. I could be wrong, but, like, he doesn't really seem to do much different. And he's very forgettable. Like, you don't really remember Blue Yankutku. And it's the same with some other guys we'll get to. But yeah, so he's just nice because he's Yankutku. Like, he's not boring just because he's a reskin. He's still a nice monster. Especially compared, like, I wouldn't compare him to these guys and stuff. So, yeah, he's gonna go in nice. Gypsaros. This is going to be a hot take, but I think Gypsaros is quite nice. I think he's very cool. Like, when I first saw Gypsaros, I was very, I'd say confused, you know? Because he is just, there's so much going on with him. He's this little fat rubber chicken with this whip tail, this beak with the funky teeth, and this crest. And he's just kind of doing all these kind of things. So I did say I didn't like poison monsters. And this is true with Gypsaros. But Gypsaros doesn't, like, he's a poison monster, but I don't find him being obnoxious with it, as some monsters can be. Like, some monsters will legit just spam poison over and over and over. And Gypsaros, I've noticed that he likes to mix it up. He likes to use, you know, his pecks and his charges and his tail whips and stuff, and so it makes him a little more interesting. Especially in Wilds. Wilds, they put a bigger emphasis on the elasticity of his tail, and that, I think, helps him a lot. especially with how in Wilds he'll actually combo the flash with the tail, and he'll flash you, and then he'll do the big tail attack that normally is easy to dodge, but when you're stunned, you obviously can't move, so it's good, and I like that. And I love the playing dead mechanic. I do think it really should have gotten like a TLC in Wild where they made it a little less obvious. I mean, it caught my friend off guard when he first fought Gypsyros because he had never fought in it before, and that was really funny. But it's obvious to people who've already done it. I do think it's funny the first time, but then it gets stale. And then I also love just the thing I love about him most, because his fight, I would say it's okay. If fight alone, I'd put him in a bit boring, because he's just and Coot a little Iodrome kind of had a baby fight wise, but I really like the design, and I like the uniqueness behind his ecology because you can't really assume much. Well, if we go by his concept art, he's supposed to be like an Oviraptor kind of egg thief monster. And originally his tail was going to be used to kind of grab eggs and stuff and steal them. And then he would have had these like scythes to cut plant material that like get like the nests and stuff. And then that's why he has like the Oviraptor kind of face. It's to eat eggs and stuff. But don't know if they've retconned that. I think in Wilds he eats mushrooms and stuff, which is cool. Fungivores. More fungivores in Monster Hunter are nice. So, but I like him as this kind of jack of all trades omnivore who's very good at avoiding getting eaten. And then he pairs well with like Nursilla, who isn't in this list. I'll get to her in 4th gen, but they have a very nice dynamic. And I won't get into too much because this is about him. His gear is very goofy, but I kind of like it. Like his armor, I love how just like it turns you into a bit of a brick, but it has a charm to it. And same with Gypsyros. He has some charm to him. And like it makes me want to put him in very good, but I don't think I can for the sake of just being honest. Next is Purple Gypsyros. Purple Gypsyros, does it warrant a 2-tier displacement? I don't think. He is very close to being put in dislike. Purple Gypsyros, like Blue Yankookut, I do like the colors more. Like the green tail contrasts very nice with this shade of purple, like this light purple. But his fight is just kind of stinky. Remember when I said that what I like about Gypsyros is how he doesn't overutilize the poison. Well, this guy, he likes to overutilize it. He loves to spam poison. And in the games I can remember at least, his poison will actually kind of like trickle around the place, so it doesn't disperse immediately. It'll kind of ooze around the place, and so you're getting procced quite a bit. And he can be very irritating. He's also a bit like, me personally, I don't find him forgettable, only because I remember how much I dislike him compared to Gypsyros. You know, so it's like, I remember Gypsyros because Gypsyros is Gypsyros. You know, we love Gypsyros. He's nice. But then you remember his evil cousin, who just loves to spit on you. And so he's very close, but I don't think it warrants the decrease because he has the nice colors and he's Gypsyros. Ooh, that's another thing. I like how you can break their head crests to disable their gimmick. I forgot to mention that. Sorry. But yeah, he has the flash, which can get annoying in older games, but in new games, you have so many ways to counter it. So it's kind of not even memorable in new games, but in old games, you want to break that immediately, because it's going to get real tiring. Unless you dodge, like get the Superman dodge a lot. So, but yeah, so Purple Gypsyros, quite a bit, bleh. Next is Yangaruga. Yangaruga is a very good monster. Some people, well, from what I've seen in the community, people will either absolutely love him or dislike him a lot. And I have always been a bit on the fence about it. Like, design-wise, he's very cool. I love how he is... You can tell he's related to young Cuckoo, but I like how he's this, like, convergent evolution with Rathian with the tail. And that he's like a bird wyvern that's, like, trying to evolve into a flying wyvern. And he has this honey badger energy about him. He basically just, like, always wants to run the fate. And I love that about him. Because he's fairly small compared to what he tries to fight. And you just gotta love that kind of lack of self-preservation he has on him. And so I love that. And his armor's pretty cool. And his weapons. His fight is a bit okay. It's a bit mid. Well, it's a bit mid in old gen. In old gen, he kind of just felt like a Rathian on crack, which is okay, but wasn't anything special. World, they kind of gave him a little more uniqueness, like he did the dive bombs and the screaming was a little more obnoxious in World, but it kind of helped solidify him as a different kind of little rat. But overall, I think he's really cool. And I do like him. And it's kind of annoying how these guys, they're normally paired together because they have this dynamic where he's the silly, goofy chicken, and he's the chicken that's really evil and is going to hurt the little chicken. But then World broke that trend by not having Yankoot, probably because Kuliaku and Puke Puke and like that kind of... Well, Puke Puke is more of a replacement for Gypsers, but Kuliaku, I think they were trying to pull it Yankoot, but they didn't really hit the mark with it. Like, they're different fights very much, but Yangaruga came in I think, a title update for World, which is very strange. I'm not the craziest about the title updates and system. Like, I get why they did it, but they made really weird choices that kind of messed with it, because just like, you know, having Zenogre, you know, in the title update, or like having like Icarus and Seregios and Wilds as title update. So they, and then he comes back in base Wilds, and then no Garuga. So hopefully Garuga comes back in Wilds. I think that'd be very cool. Give them their little dynamic again. Maybe have his introduction cutscene, almost like an homage to For You. Maybe have a turf war. And Koot, like, I don't know, maybe tries to fly away and just gets bullied. I don't know. Very good monster. I like him. A little more than Yankoot. Not by like a particularly huge margin, though. Cephadrome. Cephadrome. I don't think this is a big surprise to people. Cephadrome's a bit stinky. His design, I like his design. I like the Diplocalyst head. I like the venomous fins. And I like Piscean wyverns as a concept. It's just, they're fights, man. Like, this guy, he hates interacting with you. Or he only really does it when you don't want to interact with him. Like when his babies are paralyzing you, or when you're fighting another monster. That's when this guy decides it's time. I am also quite salty about the one quest in 4U where you have to fight 2 G-rank Cephadromes. That quest put a very sour taste in my mouth about Cephadrome. And he's kind of just done nothing. And he's been replaced by other monsters that kind of do his job better. I think his design might be my favorite out of the 3 kind of sand swimmers. But his fight is by far the worst. His gear's okay. I like the lore that he actually is blue, but he's just so disgustingly dirty, you just never see it. And he's okay. No, he's not okay. You suck. But design's cool. If he was design alone, he'd probably be around here. Next is Plesioth. Plesioth? I'm gonna put him at the top of a bit boring. He's close to being a knight. So I love Plesioth's design. Like I've said, I like the concept behind the Piscean wyvern. And Plesioth is really cool because he's this giant fish, wyvern, shark dude with like these lionfish aesthetics. But he's held back a lot by his fight. I heard in 3U he has a very cool fight. I haven't gotten that far in 3U, so he might change, and if he does, I'll make a post about it. About his new placement, since I don't think that would warrant a whole new video. Unless he comes back in Wilds, then maybe just to hop on a hype train, I would talk about him, but his design is very cool. I love his design, and I love how he's absolutely giant, like this giant fish tyrant that just could eat almost anything he could get his jaws on. But his hitboxes, they're so bad. They never really fixed them. I don't know why. It's like they've touched on other monsters' hitboxes, but they never fixed yours. I know there's a meme behind it, but it really sucks. And I don't know, I don't really like how you have sleep. Like, I don't really like how Plesioth has sleep. It doesn't, like, they never really mention about him having that. He just kind of has it. And instead of making it more cool, like making him more cool, it just makes him more annoying. Because he'll put you to sleep, and then you're getting hyper space tackled. And that makes you really sad. And it's like, why would he need sleep? He has these giant jaws that literally just crush an Aptonoth's neck in his ecology cutscene. Like, he doesn't need sleep. And it's like, it'd been kind of cool if maybe it was in his spines, like how Cephadrum has the paralysis in his spines. And then you can have that as like, oh, maybe that's how he defends himself against like Narcarchos or like Abyssal Lagiacrus. But no, he bites you and you go to sleep, which is silly. Because you don't need your food to fall asleep. You're giant. Like, I think the second biggest non-elder, you might actually be the biggest non-elder in the game. Silly fish. So yeah, and his gear is really disappointing. I really don't like his armor. It's so ugly. It's like wearing spandex, and it's, for some reason, for what he is, you'd think it'd be a little better, but yeah. And then Green Plesioth. I haven't fought Green Plesioth yet. So I won't put him in dislike, but I don't really prefer his colors, so he'll just kind of go next to Plesioth, a little bit below, but I haven't fought him yet, so I can't really say, you know, so I apologize that I haven't fought in every monster. Really should have done that to get proper opinions, and I don't really know what he does different. So yeah, he's kind of going there. Then Kezu. Kezu's an odd fella. You can go here. If this was before Rise, Kezu would have gone here. His fight, I'd say put him up here. But he's a monster that's like, I'm trying really hard to get behind. I will say this, I do like how he is this flying wyvern that is adapted to specialize in cave dwelling so much that he has completely just changed morphologically and behaviorally. Like, he's blind, he has no scales, he has weird toes and like this neck, and he's a very interesting monster. And he's one of the only thunder monsters in in Gen 1, but he's not the most fun to fight. Like I said, Rise did make it a little more enjoyable, but he's kind of just the spammer of like the AoE, and in old games that really was annoying because he just wouldn't stop spamming it, and you got very little time to attack him, and so just make the fight go on a bit. And that's why you, my friend are going right here. Red Kezu, basically, like, I think it's interesting how this is the variant, and, well, subspecies, even though subspecies, it's such a inaccurate term for 90% of the subspecies, but I like how this is technically the alteration, and this is the original kind of version. These are just albino boys, but at the same time, the white makes him more interesting. When you make him red, he just becomes like, he looks like a hot dog now instead of this weird albino cave like wyvern. Now he's red, and he has the little paralysis balls, which is more spooky. But he also, in my opinion, seems to spam the AoE more. And that means I like him less, because that's why I don't like you. And neither of their gear is very interesting, so you're kind of going down here. You're obviously not the worst. Cephadrum. But I like Iodrum a bit more, because Iodrum is his own thing. Next is Basarios. Oh, another monster that if it wasn't for Rise would be a lot lower. But he's very boring. Basarios is the only thing I like about Basarios is his armor's cool. And I like how he is a juvenile of another monster. I think it's cool when we have fightable age kind of classes, because other than like little bits of art and stuff, we don't know much about the Monster Hunter worlds kind of their ontogeny. So having this little goober, and I do like how, because he's a juvenile and stuff, he focuses on camouflage to avoid being eaten by some scary guys. And that he has all the kind of gases to try to ward off those. I don't like how Rise took away the moss. I know that you really only fight him in the volcano and the desert, which wouldn't make sense that he has moss, because moss requires a lot of hydration. But I much prefer when he has the moss. But I do like how he heats himself up when he gets angry. And I kind of think that's kind of a precursor to how Gravios would work, because Gravios, he has the mechanisms to release the excess heat through his back. Basarios can't do that because he's underdeveloped, so instead his skin just starts to soften, which I like, but his design, he's a bit ugly. And he's just... actually... No, I think you're better than Purple Gypsaurus because of that kind of, I wasn't really thinking too much about that. Nah, yeah, you're better than those two, yeah. But you're worse than Kezu. But, yeah. So, Basarios, he's alright. Rathian is... Ooh, so I have a soft spot for the Wraths. People say they're boring, but I really like them. I think Rathian and Wrath are really cool. And although they're like in every game, they just keep getting better and better. And I like how they have the sexual dimorphism. I really like it when monsters do that, because you also got the fire lions with that. But I think they do it better, because Rathian and Rathlos, they have a different model, different behavior, different fight, and so they really do feel like two different monsters despite technically being the same species. Because Rathian, she's a bit more heavily built, so she flies less. And she's a bit more of a brawler, because she'd probably have to like defend her nest and stuff, so she has the poison tail to really repel threats and stuff. And she does more fireballs, while Rathalos does more like actual fire breath. At least in the new games. In the old games, they both did the fireballs. But Rathian is a very good monster. and she's very deserving of the Queen of the Land. I like their design. They're wyverns. They're these cool, like, they are the flying wyverns. They're stereotypical, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And they still have their unique quirks, like the chin spike, the quills on her back and her tail, the enlarged, like, arm claws. They're very cool. And I love Rathian. And she's, like, the best monster to train with, like, to use to get good with a weapon. And so that's great. Next is Pink Rathian. Pink Rathian, she's not as good, but she's not as bad as people make her out to be. So she will go here. Pink Rathian, I do think, is a bit of a downgrade. In that I prefer the colors. I don't like how in World they really took away the vibrancy. And I did like how in the old game she had these striking blue eyes that really caught your attention. And her fight was an overall improvement to Rathian's, I would say. She had the alternating tailspin, the explosive bites that could get a bit annoying, but it did help differentiate her. I don't like how her scales were quite a bit harder. That was quite frustrating. World kind of took away from that, and that she no longer had the exploding bite. She still had the tail spins, and the hard scales were kind of even more apparent, but it felt like they were stripping her down. And then in Wilds, well, she wasn't in Rise, but I didn't really see her stuff in Rise Rathian, but in Wilds, she has, like, Rathian, I think, has the fire bite, like the explosive one, and she has that alternating tailspin. So it really made Pink Rathian kind of obsolete for Wilds now, which is a shame. And because these changes have kind of been adapted to Rathian, it kind of hurts her and elevates her. Because now Pink Rathian's pretty much just the fire bite one with the hard scales, which that on its own would kind of make her less fun than Rathian. And like I said, I prefer the colors on Rathian, and they, in her last iteration, they did her really poorly. I did like how she was the first kind of like big new thing in high rank though. But yeah, Gold Rathian can go up here, but she is hard carried by her 5th gen appearances. I'm not a big fan of Rathian and like Gold Rathian in the older games. They never got her color right. She was always like either a greenish yellow or like a mustard yellow. And she never looked like she was actually gold scaled. And they fixed that in 5th gen. And then 5th gen, they added the Hellfire and World. And I think I'm gonna get the name wrong. It's like, it's not inclemency. It's like, the incandescence mode, where they heat up their scales and they get the cool blue fire. That is a very cool idea, because, at least, well, in World, because Pink Rathian's not in Rise, in World, Pink Rathian was already established to have the harder scales than Rathian, and that goes the same for Gold Rathian. But because she has these hotter fireballs, it heats her up, and it just changes the dynamic of the fight completely. She also has the deadly poison, or like the toxin, that really was dangerous, because that could sap your health bad. She's really fun in both Sunbreak and Iceborne. She's amazing, and her gear is so good in Iceborne. I actually used a mixed set with her skill to beat Fatalis for the first time, so that's also might be a reason I think so highly of her, is because she did a lot of good things. And I kind of hope they come back in Wilds. And I'm thankful she was in Sunbreak as well, because Sunbreak lacked a lot of kind of variants and stuff for existing monsters. like subspecies and stuff. But Rathalos, I absolutely love Rathalos. He's the same kind of things that I like about Rathian, where it's the basic wyvern, but good. But he is even more of that basic wyvern. Because Rathian has more focus on a poison, and she's still her own thing, but Rathalos, he's the red fire-breathing dragon. Well, wyvern, but he's awesome. And I just, he's the king of the skies. He has the venom in his talons, which makes less sense than Rathian, but I like how it differentiates them. And he has more emphasis on fire. And oh my goodness, his fight in Wild is so amazing. The fact that he can set things on fire just causes it to be absolute chaos. Like, it feels like you're fighting an actual, like, a beast. Because everything's on fire, and he's just completely just dominating the skies. Although, I don't like how easy they made it to knock him out of the skies, because pretty much every other game, you either get lucky by knocking him out, or you flash pot him. But in Wilds, they added this mechanic where, like, if you like the mechanic where, you knock, you, like, hit him, he'll stagger, but then if you keep hitting him, he'll just fall out of the sky like a drunk, and you just beat on him there. But, that's, like, the only downside to his fight. But, other than that, he's great. I love him. His armor's really cool. His ecology's cool. And I remember grinding him a bunch in 4U. So that kind of adds, that kind of stuff. As your Rathalos, he is a bit stinky. Yes, I think so. Yeah, he might be the first monster that really... No, well, actually, we'll put him there. Because Azir, pre-world, sucked. His colors are awesome. I love his kind of polar opposites with blues and greens instead of reds and yellows. World really screwed him over in that aspect because they removed the green completely. And like Pink Rathian, the blue is just so boring. It's so dull. But his fight is a lot more tolerable than in old games where he's just so annoying. He just flies more and it's obnoxious. And so there's not much to say because, yeah, like he doesn't do much. Like he's so boring and annoying. Actually, yeah, he'll go in a bit boring because he really is just boring. And doesn't have... Yeah, you can go there. Silver Rathalos can go here. So you may be a little surprised because you might be like, oh, why is Gold Rathian in front of Silver Rathalos? You like Rathalos a lot more than Rathian. And while this is true, I think Gold Rathian is the better fight, and I just have more memories of her. I always saw Silver Rathalos as almost like an extension to Silver Rathian, because he's a bit more bland. I think his fight was better in the old gen, but she kind of surpassed him in new gen. And he always felt like a sidekick to her. But I do really like him. He's a improvement to base Rathalos, and in both Iceborne and Sunbreak, he's very good, just like her. I love doing the double quest where you fight the both of them in the arena, or in the Elder's Recess in Nergigante's Nest. Love fighting the two of them because it is such a fun fight. Haven't fought them together in old gen, mainly because I just don't like fighting them. I kind of just get them over with. So, yeah, but that's why he's lower than her, though, because she's much more striking. I like her gear more, and I just have more memories of her. I find her more memorable. Next is Diablos, who I think is another absolutely love. I have a very strong relationship with Diablos because One, I like monsters who don't rely on elements. It kind of just makes them feel so primal and so like animalistic when they don't rely on anything fancy. Diablos also just has these really cool design elements. His tail is like an axe club thing. He has these giant muscular forearms that, even though he has wings, he's just so heavy that he can't really fly, so he instead uses them to dig. I love that he's a herbivore. We need more herbivore monsters, because it's just cool. He has the Triceratops frill and horn kind of thing. Well, more like Nasutoceratops, because he lacks the front horn. Or like Loki Ceratops or something. There's a lot of Ceratopsians. And I like how he has the tusks, because I don't know if it was intentional, but his face just gives me the vibes of like an Oni demon, kind of from Japanese kind of folklore, or like that samurai kind of face. And it just adds this intimidating presence, especially with how small his eyes are. You almost can't see them. And his fight's really cool. I like how he digs around and stuff, because it just adds this terror that once he's under the sand, you have to run for dear life, or else you just get curbed. I also like how he's always been this like elder dragon kind of threat. And he's always been able to hold his own against that kind of tier. I do think that World kind of downplayed him a bit. He kind of gets trounced by Deviljho in their Turf War, which, although I still think Deviljho would be the victor in the confrontation, I don't think that Diablos would have done so poorly. You know, I think there would have been a bit more of a fight. But again, I like Diablos. It's great. The armor's cool. And the weapons, although they're not very good. We love Diablos. Then Black Diablos is just Diablos but cooler. Cooler than Rathalos? I actually don't think so. Only because if I had to choose between World Black Diablos and Wild Rathalos, I'm probably gonna go for the Wild Rathalos, because I really like fighting him. But Black Diablos is awesome, because Black Diablos is a Diablos, but hormonal, which is cool. And I think it's cool how it's the females, because normally in animals it's the males who kind of get pumped full of testosterone and become aggressive, but it's the female Diablos who do this, and that's very interesting, and that's just some cool little world building. Also, the black with the red eyes is just so metal. It's so cool. I love how aggressive she is. Like, Diablos is already an aggressive monster. She just ups that, and I love it. The gear, like, pretty much everything is better about Black Diablos than Diablos. And it's kind of the same thing with Silver Rathalos, where it's just an improvement in every way. And that's the same how I feel about Black Diablos. She just does everything better. And so, she's awesome. The next is Monoblos. And I know some people really like Monoblos. And that's fair. I don't think that, however. I don't think Monoblos is that crazy. I think he's a bit overhyped. I don't think design-wise he's better than Diablos, because although I like how his tail's more of a kind of spiked mace, well, that's more the club, or like axe, the Styracosaurus head feels a lot less unique, because with Diablos, you have the Ceratopsian head, obviously, but you have the tusks, and that just miserable looking expression. Well, Monoblos, it's just a Styracosaurus's head. I mean, his head will flush with color. And fight-wise, he feels like a downgrade of Diablos. Like, I know Diablos and Black Diablos have stolen Monoblos and White Monoblos' kind of kit a bit, but in the games they are in together, I still think Monoblos feels a bit boring. Monoblos, he's pretty much just Diablos that focuses more on charging, while Diablos focuses more on burrowing. And although people might prefer that, I think it's more unique for Diablos to just burrow. And the Monoblos charging, it's that kind of stereotypicalness that kind of adds to him being boring. I do like the niche partitioning, though, that Diablos eats cactus, while Monoblos eats the more, like, woody and like, fibrous plants. And that kind of adds to maybe why they don't fight each other, like, why one doesn't outcompete the others, because different food sources. Though with how bad Diablos' vision is likely, probably wouldn't change in the aggression between its own species. But yeah, Monoblos, I do think he's pretty cool. I like his armor. And I do think his fight is pretty good. I just think he's a bit of an not overlooked, but I think he's a bit, like, overrated. That's the word. I think he's a bit overrated because people really will just kind of say he has a better design than Diablos, and that's it, which I don't agree with. And they kind of go, it's like, oh, he should return and stuff, and oh, he should return. And while I do think he should return, I don't think he will, only because they've been slowly removing of what made him unique. And, like, he wasn't even in Generations, which is a little concerning, because the only other monsters who haven't been in Generations are monsters that have kind of never appeared again. Well, I shouldn't say that. Lunastra came back, and Lucent Nargacuga and stuff. So, actually, there's hope for Monoblos. There's hope. I do think that they should continue to make them feel more different. For You did that, where the burrowing and the charging. I think they should kind of double down on that. And that'd be cool. And they could have a turf war. I think Diablo should win, but that's just my personal opinion. White Monoblos, I haven't fought him. I do know that he's pretty much like a hybrid between Monoblos and Black Diablos in mechanics. So, with that in mind, I'll just put him above here. I actually can fight him right now. I have him unlocked in For You. I just haven't fought him yet. So I'm sorry about that. I'll make a post when I do fight him, and I'll let you guys know what I think. Ooh, maybe he'll go and absolutely love. I doubt it, but who knows? Who knows? Next is Gravios. Ooh, Gravios, he's so double-sided. I like him in Wilds. Don't really like him in Old Gen. Actually, that's kind of a lie. I do kind of like him in Old Gen. But it's a love-hate relationship in Old Gen. And then it's a loving relationship in Wilds. I do think he's a very good monster, though. He might... Ooh, yeah. Oh, I know it sounded like I said I hated him, but I actually kind of really like him. His design's very cool. He's kind of just the epitome of what a wyvern is capable of when it comes to just size and defense. Like, how much armor can you put on a wyvern until it's not even a wyvern anymore? Gravios does that very well. I also like how he's participates in geophagy. I like how he eats rocks and stuff. Probably other things as well. Maybe scavenges. Maybe kleptoparasitizes off of other critters. But he's really cool. I like his gear and his weapons. And I love how he just has so much to him. Because he has the laser, which is really cool. He has the vents on his back to release excess heat. He has the gases. He has his size. And it just combines into this very awesome monster. And despite how armored he is, he doesn't make you bounce very often, which I like. And even the parts that are more like armored and bouncy, they aren't overbearing because you can break them. And that's another thing people like to praise about Gravios, is he's a very puzzle box monster. He's a monster that you gotta think about how to disable his abilities. You can break his thighs. Breaking it like breaking one, you get a free knockdown, which is great. If you break both of them, it makes it so that when he does that big annoying jump attack, he breaks his ankles and he'll fall over, which is really good. Cutting his tail, you reduce the range of that massive hitbox. The wings, I'll be honest, I don't actually know what they do when you break them. Same with the head. I mean, breaking his tummy makes him all squishy and very easy to hurt. And then breaking the back will disable his gas after a laser. So I really like that about Gravios. And then Wilds, he's less annoying, it feels, because they cleaned up some of the hitboxes, which is really all he needed to be awesome. I just don't think I love him as much as these other monsters, which is why he's very good. Black Gravios will go just behind Gravios, because I think with the kind of sideways laser and stuff, that kind of makes the fight less fun than more fun. But other than that, he doesn't do too much. I like his lore, in that I think it's when a Basarios kind of scorches itself, it'll grow into a black Gravios, which is cool. Or maybe it's a Gravios that spends too much time in the lava and it scorches his shell. Either way, it looks awesome. Just fight-wise, not the craziest about. Not that it's bad, it's Gravios. It's just Gravios, but less fun. So I think, yeah. Oh, Kieran. Yeah, that's where you'll go. Kieran is a monster that I think is one of the very few monsters that, in my opinion, becomes less fun the further he gets in the games. Because World really hurt Kieran, in my opinion. And I think GU as well hurt Kieran. Because they made him so insufferable to fight. He's always moving. He's always bouncing. He's always making your weapon bounce. And he's tiny, so it's hard to hit him. His armor's kind of... I don't like his armor. His weapons aren't even memorable. I don't even remember what weapons he has. And his design is cool, but it's a bit... Like, if... A really cool thing that they kind of took away from his concept art is... So Kieran is based off of, the Japanese creature, the Kirin, which is like this dragon kind of deer creature. And he originally was going to kind of be a lot closer to that. And that it was going to be kind of this base template of a unicorn, but like scaling clawed. But there's going to be kind of more emphasis on that, where the claws are going to be more apparent, more scales are going to be obvious. And then he was going to have this like electric mustachio that Eastern dragons have. That would have looked sick. And they didn't do that. I'm guessing due to technological difficulties back then. Like maybe it was too much for like that little render of Thunder mustache. But they should bring that back. And fix his fight. Because I don't like it. And he's like... He's not like so outlandishly designed that it makes him very interesting. He's kind of just a dragon unicorn. Then there's Lao. I like Lao. Well, I like the idea of Lao, of a siege fight, of a giant monster that requires you to use weaponry so powerful that it would just destroy other monsters because he's just so strong. But he's a bit of a bore. I mean, he's cute. He's a pot-bellied little dragon, old man grandpa dragon. But his fight's really boring. It's pretty much just 35 minutes of you just wailing on him, since he doesn't like to fight you. His design's cool, at least. I kind of like how he's kind of a mix between Fatalis and a Cantor. And that's cool. His armor and weapons are also really cool. His armor is like a samurai, and that's awesome. And then his weapons are very nice. So yeah, I like Lao, but he's in desperate need of a TLC. Ashen Lao, the another monster I haven't fought. He looks less cool than Lao, so he's just going below Lao. And I haven't really watched anything on him because I don't really go out of my way to watch 20 minutes of Lao Shenlong. And I haven't heard of much of him. So yeah. I mean, I don't dislike him because I've never fought him. But I'm not really thinking much about him. Next is Fatalis, which... Ooh. I love Fatalis and Iceborne. He's carried by Iceborne. I think he's cool in old gen, but I would have only put him in maybe nice or very good. But Fatalis and Iceborne is a different beast. Does he go top? I feel like it'd be a bit like stereotypical to put him at the top, because you know everyone loves Iceborne Fatalis because he's an amazing fight. He's so just cool. His music is awesome. His design, just being a stereotypical Western dragon in a world of these unique designs, just it makes him feel more alien. His theme, not his theme transition, his fight transitions, like his phases, awesome. His gear, over the top, broken. Everything about him's great, and he's such a difficult fight. He's the only fight in the entirety of Monster Hunter, like the entire series, where I actually made a build for him specifically. I've never done that before until him, because he's really strong. So because of these combined factors, I think he does deserve this spot. And then Crimson Fatalis. I haven't fought in the 4U kind of special Crimson Fatalis. I've only done like the base Crimson Fatalis. Because of that, I think he was the top of nice. Because he's a Fatalis that just gets meteors. He's not an Iceborne Fatalis, so he definitely doesn't go around here. But he's a nice fight. I really like it. A bit boring, some might say. But, I think that it's overall a good fight. And like, he doesn't do anything too bad. So I think that's it. I just want to quickly... Yeah, I don't really like any of you guys. I don't mind any of you guys. I think Purple Chips first will actually go behind Lao. And green pull, no, because I don't really, and I can't really, yeah, because I don't know much about you. You definitely deserve to go down there. Yeah, I'd say you're fine there. Same with you, same with you, same with you. You would be down there if it wasn't for Wilds. I think, yeah. Do you go above Black Gravios? I don't think so. Yes. I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is my first kind of long form kind of content. And, you know, leave a comment on your guys' thoughts. I'm actually quite interested in knowing your kind of takes on first gen and its monsters. And if you like this video, I might do a second gen video, or maybe just more videos where I talk. I don't know, let me know. So yeah, see you guys next time.